And most importantly, he's the person reading your resume on the other side of the application. He has interviewed almost hundreds of candidates, turned down countless applications, and selected people for jobs that actually changed their lives.
And yes, you heard him right. I am on the other side of a lot of applications, and it felt very weird when I started doing it because a day ago I was, on the other side giving out applications, submitting applications for different roles. So I actually think talent acquisition is one of the most underrated career paths for graduates, especially for people who genuinely enjoy working. Don't evaluate opportunities only through salary. Evaluate them through learning, growth, culture, mentorship, and future trajectory as well.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Campus2Career Podcast. This is your host, Rasik Askar. Today, I'm really looking forward to the episode because we have with us someone who actually exactly understands what you are going through when you're looking for a job. Jawdat Suleri is the talent acquisition lead at Talent Edge. He's a graduate from Fast University, and most importantly, he's the person reading your resume on the other side of the application. He has interviewed almost hundreds of candidates, turned down countless applications, and selected people for jobs that actually changed their lives. Let's hear from him directly. Hi, Jawdat. Thank you for joining us today. Hope all is well.
Hi- Yeah, hi Rasik. Thank you so much for having me, man. I'm super excited to have this conversation. And yes, you heard him right. I am on the other side of a lot of applications, and it felt very weird when I started doing it because a day ago I was, on the other side giving out applications, submitting applications for different roles, and then the next day I was screening resumes. So yeah, crazy journey so far. But thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, no worries. Actually, I'm very much interested in, how did this begin exactly? Could you walk us through how was it like, graduating from FAST, and then what were your initial options, and how did you actually land in this space of talent acquisition?
Yeah, so in summary, it was in very short, summary. It was very accidental, and I'll tell you how. So during my time at Fast, I was heavily involved in extracurricular activities, sports society, dramatics, organizing events, getting a lot of sponsorship deals from the professionals out there. So there was a lot of interaction very early on with a lot of professionals, right? Because of that, we built a really good connection with a lot of companies, representatives, and for that reason, people around me always said I'd probably do well in sales or marketing because I was good with people, right? Talking to them and building connections. And honestly, that's what I believe too. So after graduating, those were mainly the roles I was aiming for. And around that time, KeepTruckin was growing very fast. And I applied for a sales development representative position there. I was genuinely very excited about it. I read through the JD. I said, bang on, this is what I want to do, and this is what I can do. And one of my really close friends from university sent me a recruiting coordinator position. He said, मैं इसके लिए apply कर रहा हूँ, why don't you apply too? Let's see how it goes. We're still hunting, aiming to land a role somewhere, right? And Katie obviously was a really big name at that time. So he said, just apply. And I remember thinking, I don't even know what a recruiting coordinator does. I never heard of it before, and but the JD sounds interesting. So yeah, I applied. Funny enough, a few days later, I got a rejection email from KeepTruckin, but it was for the sales position,
Oh,
and I was pretty devastated. Yeah, at first, until shortly after a recruiter reached out. Now he's a really good friend of mine. He reached out to me from KeepTruckin, for the recruiting coordinator position. And I started interviewing for that position. I learned more throughout the process, researched a bit about it. I started getting interested in the role. And they liked me for some reason, and they placed me an offer. And that's how I ended up in KeepTruckin. And looking back now, I generally feel talent acquisition, suited me far better than sales ever would have. And
mhm.
honestly, that accidental start ended up shaping up my entire career. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. क्योंकि Jawdat, I've had conversations with a few people on the same podcast before, and interestingly, किसी को भी मतलब पैटर्न बहुत सिमिलर है. स्टार्टिंग ऑफ a lot of people don't know what they want to do, especially graduating with a business degree, BBA degree, काफ़ी जनरल हो जाती हैं चीज़ें. So I think you are pretty much also in the same category. That might be very helpful
100%.
actually to a lot of fresh graduates जो थोड़े थोड़े नर्वस हो रहे होते हैं कि पता नहीं आगे क्या होना है. अब क्योंकि ये चीज़ मेरे साथ भी हुई थी, राइट? वो नर्वसनेस
Yeah,
इट रियली स्टार्ट्स टू किक इन.
of course.
या.
Of course, and until you land your first role, I think for me, I can say personally, I didn't know what I wanted to do exactly. You know, you heard from everywhere. You know, you might be good at sales, you're good at
या. या.
marketing, you should try those out. But internally, you know, I didn't exactly know what I couldn't pinpoint. You know, this is what I want to do, and that's sad in a way. And you know, it has changed. I've seen it change now, and I've been to different career fairs. You know, career counseling events at different institutions now, and within Islamabad as well. So I'm seeing that change now, and I'm seeing that how schools are investing in that, you know, career development plan for students, and I'm pretty impressed. And I hope that was something that we had gone through as well, that whole process. But unfortunately, we missed out on it. But now I think I'm seeing that change, and I feel people, you know, especially candidates coming out, fresh graduates, they should utilize that, and they should, you know, make use of that, you know, development plan that, you know, institutions are investing in now.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. So, Jawdat, when you like started off in KT, what happened next? If you could walk us through the journey so far.
So when I started working at KeepTruckin, I moved to Lahore. I'm primarily from Islamabad, but I did my graduation from Fast Lahore. Then I came back to Islamabad, was job hunting here. Then I got the opportunity from KeepTruckin. They were building out their operations in the Lahore office, and we had to hire about 400 people in, you know, and we did hire 400 people in about 6 months. So yeah, that was a pretty crazy ride. A lot of you know, quick hiring, scheduling, interviewing candidates, screening resumes day in day out. But it was a really good exposure because we were working directly with the US team. I, you know, was surprised at the quality of candidates coming out, because obviously you don't get that exposure until
Mm.
you're in the field.
Yeah.
And I feel, you know, I was surprised mainly because of the quality of talent that we have in Pakistan, especially for the sales positions. You know, people had really good communication skills, they had great sales pitches, great experiences under their belt. And I was very impressed by how they were, you know, working and studying at the same time, and they were juggling both things at the
Yeah.
same time, and, you know, making living for themselves, and, you know, building out their careers very early on. So I was genuinely impressed. And from Keep Trucking, you know, I went a lot, worked with really good, talented teams, and did my. So yeah, that's how it initially started off.
Okay, cool. So, like recruitment के अंदर could you like tell me, because so I have this sort of, like, I think I could be wrong, but this falls under HR, right? So
Mhm.
HR की umbrella के अंदर और क्या क्या options होते हैं, and like if somebody has to pick something specific, is that something that they could do, or जिस तरह आप कह रहे हो कि जब तक आप घुसते नहीं हो, you start to learn on the job, you go with the flow, and then you understand what's better for you as a career.
No, you're absolutely, yeah, you're absolutely right. Talent acquisition is related to HR. It's basically a specific specialization within HR, right? It's one of the HR functions, right? Along with, you know, talent management, reward, comp and ben, talent management, you know, employee engagement, employee branding, and operations, HR operations, analytics. So there's HR has a lot of different things, and people don't realize it, right?
Yeah.
It's just on the surface that feel that HR is just doing certain tasks, but in reality, HR has so many different functions, and they're all very critical to businesses, in my opinion, and in reality as well, right? If you're building out a company, you should have all these things sorted out, right? You need a proper performance management plan, succession plan. You know, that all comes under talent management. Talent acquisition function has to be really strong. You need to make sure that you're bringing in the right people in the company for long term, right? So yeah, and it usually is, you know, HR. And when we talk about talent acquisition, it usually is further divided into two subsections, sub-functions, which is tech and non-tech
Yeah.
TA. Tech hiring is basically hiring engineers, product, you know, managers, data people, AI roles, and non-tech is usually sales, marketing, accounting, finance, etc.
And so, how do you like, as an HR person, uh, how do you, let's say, understand or realize that this person is fit for the tech role or fit for the non-tech role? Uski kya like hoti hai scrutiny, you can say.
So in terms of recruitment, so as a recruiter, how do you see if this person might do well as a technical recruiter or business recruiter?
Yeah,
Is that what
exactly.
you're asking?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So personally, I started off as a business recruiter, like I told you, right? We were hiring, mass hiring for a lot of sales positions. But as time went on, and I used to do the same thing over and over again, it became kind of monotonous for me,
Yeah.
and that's when I realized, I want to do more.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, how do you know if someone is a business recruiter or someone would do well as a technical recruiter? Personally, I started off as a business recruiter, and like I told you, I mass hired for a lot of sales and operations positions, and I did that for a while, but then it sort of became monotonous for me, and I had that bit of doubt in my head if TA recruitment is something that I want to pursue long term, right? And that's when that seed, sort of developed in my head. But then I realized that there's a lot more that I can do within HR, within talent acquisition itself as well, right? And that's when I started exploring technical recruitment,
Mm.
right? And I realized, because me, I don't have technical background. I
Yeah.
did BBA, bachelor's in business administration, so I did not have any technical background as such. And that's when I realized, right, it's a specialization within that, right, within HR. And the biggest difference is that in tech hiring, you really need to understand the roles deeply. You're hiring for very niche skill sets. The market
Yeah.
moves extremely fast, and especially during that time, right, the tech market was booming all over the world, and strong engineers usually have multiple opportunities available to them. So it's pretty hard to sort of convince them to join a role. So it's different layers. It's different. It's a different experience, all in all, right? So and the question to how you differentiate if someone is going to be good with business recruitment or technical recruitment, I think it's more of a personal choice. But I like to give exposure to recruiters within my team to both ends, right? I want them to sort of realize and sort of pick and choose for them what is it that they want to do. I don't want to navigate them that this is what you
Yeah.
should do, because in long term, if that is not something that they're comfortable with, I'm just sort of pushing back their careers. But I always give them exposure to both ends, right? Both technical and non-technical recruitment, and that's when they sort of develop their interest in either of the fields, or if there's an opportunity in any other HR function, right, that they want to explore. I think it's for me, it's putting the ball in the other person's court rather than me navigating and instructing and dictating
So,
them what they should do.
so
It's
it's
giving
not.
them a taste and flavor. Hmm.
So it's not that they should have a specific background. फिर ही they can go into either tech or non-tech, right? It's not necessary.
No, no, not at all, not at all. And like I said, right, I came from a non-tech background, right? But I
Yeah.
feel that I do a pretty decent job at technical recruitment, because I've had that exposure working with so many engineers, with so many tech companies, that I now understand what is the requirement, what to look for, what sourcing strategies to use to sort of, look for technical people.
Yeah. So, Jodhat, I'm sure, like in the past, let's say 5, 6 years, a lot of things have changed, especially on your side, since
Yeah,
you mentioned that, at the tech recruitment side, it's like it's quite fast paced as compared to the other side, right? So if somebody today wants to pursue this career path, what is like the basic foundation that they should have, or at least some basics that they should be prepared for? And also, as a career option, why should one go into this? Like, what are the aspects that make it a rewarding experience?
of course. So I actually think talent acquisition is one of the most underrated career paths for graduates, especially for people who generally enjoy working with others, solving problems, learning constantly, right? And I think it's a bit sad as well that we don't have that sort of. When I was in university, I did not have a course or a module where I was
Yeah.
given exposure to talent acquisition or recruitment in general, right? We didn't exactly know. Recruitment for anyone is just hiring people, right? But it's so much more than that. And the reality is that it teaches you a very diverse skill set. You develop communication skills, stakeholder management, negotiation, market awareness,
Hmm.
psychology, branding, and even business strategy over years, right? What makes it especially interesting is that you're constantly learning about different industries and different functions, right? One day you're speaking to software engineers, another day you're hiring for sales, operations, or leadership roles, right? So it's a whole different experience. And so your exposure grows very quickly within talent acquisition. And I also think it's one of the few careers where you can create a very visible impact from early on, right? From day one, you can make that impact, right? The people you hire directly influence company culture, team performance, business growth, and you're sort of, navigating that. You're sort of the driving force to that, right? And on a personal level, it's rewarding because you're often part of very important moments in people's lives. Sometimes a single opportunity can genuinely change someone's career trajectory, right?
Yeah.
And financial situation, or confidence in themselves. Being able to contribute to that feels very meaningful, and it's sort of the reason why I wanted to stick to recruitment and talent acquisition. I felt that I can do my best in helping people find the best opportunities for themselves, right? And that's how I see talent acquisition for me. And for me personally, what keeps the field exciting is that it never becomes static, right? Industries evolve, hiring trends evolve, candidate expectations evolve. So there's always something new to learn.
All right. And would you say that this experience as a talent acquisition specialist or a lead or something varies from company to company or industry to industry, or is generally the same? And also, like, is it different in a startup versus in a corporate environment?
100%. I think they're both very different. Startups are usually very rapid. There's a lot of speed and efficiency involved. Because I've been in process for both startups and for
Yeah.
corporate,
Yeah.
you can say telcos or multinationals. So I've been in process for both, and I've firsthand experienced it as well, and I'm sure you as well. You've worked with startups and different companies, so you understand the drill, and it's very different for both. And to answer your question, 100%, their processes are very different,
Hmm.
and you know it's a bit more relaxed at corporate, but it's more cutthroat at a startup. You constantly need to add value, constantly need to deliver on things at a startup because they're very volatile, right? While they're very rewarding as well, in terms of your career growth, your learning experiences, and in monetary terms as well. But the security part is a bit less with
Hmm.
startups, as we all know. And whereas with corporate, it's a whole different experience. And I won't say one is better than the other. It's just different life choices, right? And neither is it one is might be good for me, the other might be good for you. So it's a different life choice entirely. So yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So, Jawdat, like, I would want you now to where the basically now I want to ask the question from the perspective of a fresh candidate, a fresh graduate,
Mhm.
sorry. Since you are almost on a daily basis looking for and interviewing candidates for different roles, what are the biggest red flags that you see in fresh graduates? Like, immediately it clicks you, okay, regardless of the role, this is something that is a huge turn off.
So I think one thing for me is that a lot of people, they don't come very prepared to interviews,
Hmm.
and that's one of my biggest red flags, right? And by being prepared is not just polishing your you know communication skills or your script that you've prepared, the pitch that you've prepared, but it's generally just reading through the job description, reading through the role, what entirely the role entails, what will be the expectations from you, what are the responsibilities that you'll be catering to, right? And I feel that bit is missing. And another thing I've noticed quite often with fresh graduates, that many become heavily focused on the compensation very early in the
Yeah.
interviews, right?
Yeah.
And to be fair, I completely understand that everyone's circumstances are different. Financial stability matters. I get all of that, and I do empathize with that as well. But sometimes I see candidates choosing the better immediate package over better long-term learning opportunity, mentorship, or growth environment. And I think that can be a little short-sighted early on, especially at the beginning of your career. The biggest asset you can build is your skill set, your exposure, and your professional value,
Yeah.
right? And once you become genuinely valuable in the market, compensation usually follows naturally. right? And I've experienced it firsthand. And so my advice to graduates is that, absolutely know your worth, but also focus on increasing your worth, right?
Hmm.
Don't just know your worth, focus on increasing your worth as well. Don't evaluate opportunities only through salary. Evaluate them through learning, growth, culture, mentorship, and future trajectory as well.
And one thing that I think students in general are sometimes confused about, and these are some of the questions that I also had, while I was entering into my career path and whatever, was that, when we graduate or when a person graduates, they don't necessarily have a lot of experience, right?
Yeah.
So how does one write their skills or present themselves just in a resume? Because there's also this argument that, a person might not be the best fit in an interview, but for the job he might be a good fit. So how do you identify such a person, or is there such thing as, identifying them, and what should a student do in this case if they are sort of not that experienced or slightly inexperienced, you could say?
So I think, and because I got this exposure early on as well when I was in university, I think extracurriculars is the easiest and the quickest way to get that sort of exposure, right? Involve yourself in interacting with different people, because when you're in university, you're not just in a classroom, right?
Yeah,
You're meeting with so many people who've come from so many different places and so many different backgrounds, right? Just learn off each other, right? Involve yourself in so many extracurricular activities, because I know universities have that in Pakistan, especially,
yeah,
right? And I'm an advocate for that, right? I say involve yourself, put yourself in those situations where you're interacting with people. At FAST, one of the things I truly admired about my institution and my degree was that we were put on the spot quite often, right? We were asked to deliver projects, we were
yeah,
asked to do a lot of presentations,
yeah,
and I think that helped us build that sort of confidence in ourselves where we're not just, preparing material, but we're also delivering that material. So I think put yourselves in those positions, and, you know, it, wh- CVs are CVs, right? They're just a piece of paper where you're just writing down things that you've done. And um, my advice to candidates and fresh grads is never lie on your CV, right? But also alter your CV according to the
yeah.
job description that and the job role that you're applying for, right? Don't if I am applying for an HRBP position, I won't just specifically include my technical recruitment experience in that. I'll just do more than that, right? And similarly, if you're applying for a different position, just prepare your CV, prepare yourself according to that position, right? Just don't lie in your CV. Try to include every experience that you've done, that you've had in the past, and write it in a way that's effective, that makes it valuable to that person seeing the resume. And yeah, man, just CVs are CVs. It's a piece of paper. It's the first interaction. Just make sure it's presentable. It's relevant to the position. People don't invest a lot of time in building their CVs. They just have one CV and they just start, spam applying for different positions. And that's not the approach that I go for. Your applications should be very specific, very targeted.
And do you think being creative also helps? Like, I remember that when I was at Sadape, we used to have every now and then some candidates who used to go out of the box, and instead of just sending a resume, they would have, prepared a presentation or a cover letter that could stand out or whatever. So do you think that that helps?
100%. I mean, the effort that you've put in an application, it shows. And, I think there's always bonus points for those. And, and it shows, your dedication, your determination, your interest in the position, right? How
Yeah.
involved are you in the process, what it means to you. And I think 100%, it has its own importance, of course.
Okay. And as a recruiter, how do you see, like, starting off from Motive until today, what has changed in the candidate pool specifically? Like, what type of candidates were there previously and what type are there today? Has there been a change? Is there any improvement, or it's just the same? How do you look at that?
So I think to start off with your question, back then I think we were more scared. We were more
Yeah.
conscious in our applications, right?
Mm.
Because when I was graduating, a lot of my seniors told me that get a role wherever you can, right?
Yeah.
Land a job wherever you can. If you can get, if you land a role for 20,000, 30,000, just accept it, right? Because that's how the market is. But now it has changed, right? It has evolved. There's a lot more tools that you can, refer to sort of, get that sort of information. More than word of mouth, you have all those things available at your disposal where you can sort of learn about different things in the market and trends. So I think the candidate pool today is far more competitive than it was when I graduated. There's a lot more awareness now. Students are learning skills earlier, building portfolios, doing internships, freelancing, networking on LinkedIn, and becoming career conscious much sooner. And at the same time, opportunities for fresh graduates, unfortunately, have also become more selective. So standing out today requires a lot more intentional effort than just having a degree, right? And what really gets candidates noticed now is differentiation.
Yeah.
Everyone may have similar qualifications on paper. So the question becomes, right, what makes you memorable?
Yeah.
Right? What makes you stand out? For some people, that could be strong communication skills. For others, it could be internships, projects, leadership experience, extracurricular involvement, personal branding, technical depth, or even simply having a very strong growth mindset and willingness to learn. I think that attitude speaks volumes. And I also think that graduates today need to become much better at presenting themselves professionally,
Yeah.
right? Whether that's through their CV, LinkedIn profile, networking, interviews. A lot of talented people unfortunately undersell themselves because they don't know how to communicate their value clearly. And like you said, right, when we were having this conversation, that people don't often do well in interviews, right? They undersell themselves, and
Yeah.
when they're on the job, they do really well.
Yeah.
So I think never undersell yourselves. And honestly, adaptability has become a huge factor now. Industries are evolving quickly. AI is changing how we work, and skill requirements keep shifting. The graduates who stay curious, who keep learning, who evolve with the market are the ones who will stand out long term.
But do you think, like you mentioned, that one now the pool is so competitive that you have to try to stand out or whatever? But I'm thinking from the lens of an introvert. Let's say it's very difficult to go the extra mile in that sense. So do they have like an automatic disadvantage, or do they have to step out of their comfort zone, especially as a fresh grad, because you don't know what's gonna happen next, right? You don't know how cutthroat or how good your career path could be. Right now you're only nervous because, like you said, I'm sure आज भी ऐसे ही होता होगा कि just land the first role. So because I've seen this myself, there are extroverts and introverts, and I
Yeah.
personally think that extroverts in some cases do have an advantage. So how does an introvert sort of make the effort to stand out?
So, that also depends on the career choices, right? If an introvert is, pursuing a career which requires more people engagement, which
Hmm.
requires, a lot of people management, I think then they should put themselves in that spot. The process of learning and growth is to put yourself in a situation where you might be uncomfortable, where you might be, um, where you might not perform at your best, but that's what the idea of learning and growth is, right? Put yourself in those situations and then you will come out of it stronger. And for introverts, I think there's a lot of different career paths as well. But if you want to choose a people centric role, 100% you can do it. I used to consider myself an introvert. I used to get shy on stage. And I wasn't very vocal, or I wasn't very comfortable talking to people a lot before university. But
Hmm.
like I said, fast we went through that process at fast
Yeah.
where we were put on spot. We had to present a lot. So I got myself engaged in so many different societies that I got that exposure early on, and I built and I learned out of it and grew out of it. So I think anyone can do it. And there's different things that you can try. There's different material that you can use to practice and sort of come out of it stronger if you want a people centric role.
Okay. And do you think with the enhancement of resources that are available today, with the introduction of AI,
Mhm.
people now have a sort of level playing field, or is that not the case?
It is 100%. It is a level playing field. It's just how you leverage AI to sort of capitalize on it, right? right? How are you using AI? How are you integrating it into your processes to make processes efficient, more smooth, right? So I think the playing field is level. Everyone has those resources available to them, and it's just how you use them now.
And in terms of like your day-to-day work, when we're talking about specifically talent acquisition, how
Mhm.
has AI disrupted that space? And like how big of a change in the recruitment space, especially, has taken place because of AI?
So, Rasik, honestly, AI is already changing recruitment quite significantly, and especially on the operation side of talent acquisition.
Yeah.
A lot of repetitive, time-consuming administrative tasks like sourcing, screening resume, interview scheduling, documentation,
Hmm.
note-taking, and even initial outreach, right, are becoming much more efficient with AI tools. And a lot of companies are now leveraging AI to sort of, automate these processes. And recruiters today can move much faster and handle larger volumes of work without compromising too much on quality with the introduction of AI. And I also think AI is improving access to data and insights, which helps recruiter make more informed
Informed.
hiring decisions, right? Yeah, but at the same time, I think the human side of recruitment has become even more important now because when automation increases, qualities like relationship building,
Yeah.
trust, communication, candidate experience, they become stronger differentiators, right?
Hmm.
And so overall, I see AI less as a disruption to recruitment itself and more as a disruption to how recruitment is done.
And for you personally, is that something that scares you, or is that something that excites you, that maybe this can enhance my skills further on?
So I'm seeing a lot of growing insecurity within
Yeah.
recruiters, HR folks, and
Yeah.
when I was at a company, we used to get that a lot that AI is taking over, make yourself more valuable. Otherwise, AI will replace you. I don't think AI is replacing recruiters entirely, but I do think that it's changing what makes a recruiter valuable.
Mm.
100%. Recruiters who only rely on repetitive administrative work may struggle because a lot of those tasks can now be automated,
Yeah.
right? But recruiters who bring strategic thinking, strong stakeholder management, market understanding, communication skills, and relationship building abilities will become even more valuable, right?
Mhm.
Hiring is still ultimately a very human process. Companies don't just hire resumes; they hire people, personalities, potential, and culture fits, right? So AI can support decision making, but it can still not fully replace human judgment, empathy, and intuition in hiring conversations, right? So I think the recruiters who will thrive in an AI-driven world are the ones who learn how to combine technology with human skills instead of seeing AI as a competition.
I personally think that people don't have an excuse anymore, right? That
Yeah,
this is something that XYZ
agreed.
department can handle, this is something that a technical person can handle, etc. You are now required to, the bare minimum or the standard has risen because of
Yeah.
these resources, and the person who makes the most out of it will not only just survive, but I think thrive, right?
100%. And I always say, constantly upskill yourselves. The industry is evolving very fast. The market is evolving very fast. We see trends changing. We see introduction of new things such as AI, right? And I think you just need to constantly upskill. I know it may feel very exhausting at times, but I think once you start, leveraging it in your day to day, I think that's how it can also make your daily life easier as well. And yeah, you just need to upskill yourself, with the industry.
Okay. And Joseph, like, I know that you have experience, like, so far in your career, I think there have been instances where you have worked with international companies also, probably doing the same right now as well. So, can you, like, first of all, walk us through how did you end up, uh, whenever you did like a remote role, how did you end up getting that role? And also, what are the things that a fresh graduate today can do? Because there has been a lot of talk on, people usually prefer getting paid in dollars, getting paid
Hmm.
in foreign currency because of the economic situation. Plus, there's always a benefit of, getting a good company name on your resume as well. Plus, working remotely, I think it has its benefits also. Is there a specific formula of landing a role like that?
So Personally, Rasik, I don't think there's a specific formula, but I think the idea is to always adding value to yourself, right? And I've been very lucky, more than my hard work, more than anything else. I think it has been a lot of luck because I got that recruitment position at KeepTruckin. From there, I went to Grana because I had built a really strong connection. So one of my connections referred me to Grana. I got into that opportunity. Then Kite reached out again. I joined them as a recruiter this time, and from there, I got an opportunity to work with Kareem. Now, Kareem at that time was a huge name in the
Yeah,
market, right?
yeah.
They were recently acquired by Uber, and they were doing really well. And circumstances happened, and I landed up in Sadape. Again, through my professional network, I got that opportunity. And sometimes these things matter a lot. You need to be very careful. You need to be very open in your head that you're constantly building these strong connections, not just out of pure greed or your own purpose, but it's just good intention as well, right? I might be able to help someone today, and tomorrow someone else might be able to help me out, and that's how the industry works, right? Especially in the HR and recruitment field. So I think I've been very lucky. There has not been a formula as such, but I've got the exposure with so many different startups, tech startups, international startups, that I build that confidence, I build those skill sets, and there has been a lot of luck as well. I met some people through personal references as well, and that's how that conversation started. But that's not how you land a role, right? You have to land a role with what you know, with what you deliver, with the value you add. And I think they may have seen something in me that pushed them to asked me to work for them remotely from Pakistan because I'm the only Pakistani recruiter they have at the moment. And I think if I can do it, anyone can do it. There's no such formula. Just constantly think about your career progression. Constantly think about learning and growing in your field. And I think just upskill yourself every day. And that's the only formula I know. Yeah.
But in order to start the conversation, the one word that I kept on hearing was networking, right?
Yeah.
So you think that networking is still in today's world very, very important?
I think in any world, yes. Networking and networking is not just randomly reaching out to people.
Hmm.
It's simply, building connections within your organization, within your team members, right? And the talent acquisition and recruitment space, it's very competitive for recruiters working in the same team. Because when I was at KT and we were hiring engineers, there always used to be that unsaid competition where who hires more people per month, right? Someone might be hiring 10, someone might be hiring 15, someone might be hiring 20. Honestly, that was always in the back of my head, but never did I let that bother me too much because I wanted to be more involved in the processes, how I can make the process more efficient. And there were times that I had the least amount of hires per month, but my manager never had a problem with me because I was focusing and sort of helping other recruiters in some ways as well. And I think that's the approach one should have. It's an unsaid competition in the TA field, but it's just how you approach it, right? Make it healthy, make it useful, make it an experience where you can add value as well, and that you can also help other people around you.
All right, cool.
Mhm.
Jadit, now we'll move to the second last part of this podcast. It's basically a section where I give you some options. It's basically a
Mhm.
this or a that, and
Mhm.
you will have to choose from those options. It can just be
Okay.
that you just choose the option, or you can also elaborate on why you've chosen that
Sure.
in a short time, right?
Of
So
course.
I'll just go ahead. Yeah, for fresh graduates, building your personal brand or focusing on hard skills first, what should the priority look like?
I think hard skills first, and I say that because you need something meaningful to show before you build a brand around it, right? And once you're developing real skills or experience, personal branding helps amplify that value.
Okay. For someone looking to move to HR, should they start in HR operations or talent acquisition? What should they explore first?
I may sort of have a bias, and that's why I'm going to say talent acquisition first. And but there's also a reason to it. You know, talent acquisition exposes you faster to communication, market dynamics, hiring strategy. Ideally, both are useful, but TA I think is often more dynamic early on.
Okay. And specifically for job hunters today, apply everywhere or target specific companies, which is a smarter strategy.
Always target companies. Targeted applications work better when you focus, your CV preparation, effort. They're more aligned, right? And that quality shows. So applying everywhere often leads to low quality effort and lower conversion as well. So targeted companies always.
Okay. What, according to you, matters more in today's AI driven world? Is it learning recruitment tools or mastering people skills first?
I think mastering people skills first, because recruitment is fundamentally human, but AI tools should be learned alongside. The winning combination is strong communication plus tech adaptability, but always, build your personal people skills first. Yeah.
Okay. And where do the best candidates in your experience come from? Like for a company, like where do the best candidates come from? Is it through job portals and applications or referrals and networking?
So networking and referrals, in my opinion, because I've experienced it firsthand, job portals are useful for reach, but referrals and networking and referrals they often convert better.
Okay. And which career path, according to you, is more rewarding? Specializing in tech recruitment or being a generalist recruiter?
Early in your career, being a generalist is valuable because it gives you exposure to different industries. But over time, specialization, especially in tech, tends to be more rewarding in terms of depth and learning and career growth. So for me, tech specialist, yeah. But it's always nice to have that generalist experience where you've explored different areas and then you've chosen for yourself what exactly is that you want to do.
Okay. Which approach works better for you? Hiring for potential or hiring for skills?
Hiring for potential. And in Pakistan's market, I think hiring for potential is 100%. There's a lot of potential in the market. Skills can be taught, but mindset, curiosity, adaptability, they're harder to develop.
Okay, lastly, which catches better candidates according to your experience? Is it through resume screening by AI or human recruiters?
Human recruiters. And I can elaborate if you want.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Interesting.
All right. So AI is great for speed and filtering at scale, but human recruiters, are still better at understanding context, potential, and nuance. And I see AI as a support tool, not as a replacement. So the final judgment still needs a human layer.
All right, cool. So, Jodhat, like any sort of specific advice for the fresh graduates and also for people, because we haven't touched upon that, and I would like to do so towards the end, is for people who are moving or who want to move, let's say from a specific role, could be any role, to into HR, right? How should they position themselves? What should they do exactly? For both, if you could give some sort of advice.
Yeah, so I'll answer the question where how you can make that switch to HR, right?
Yeah.
So I'd say first of all, first step is do your research, right? Like I said, HR is a massive field, right? It has so many different functions, right? So just research about it, you know, determine, learn what exactly is it that you want to do within HR. Because when you land in HR, and if you land in HR operations and you feel that it's not something I want to do, it's not nice, especially when you're hopping jobs or switching the career path. So do your research first and foremost, and understand what is it that you want to do. Do you want to do learning and development? Do you want to do recruitment? Do you want to do operations? What is it exactly that you want to do? And then position yourself according to that. Use your past experiences, how you can relate that experience with uh, the aspired new role that you want to get into.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And how do you see, like, from a recruiter's point of view, very specifically, how do you see Pakistani candidates performing in international companies? The reason why I'm asking is, unfortunately, there's this notion, at least that I've heard about, is quote unquote, this side of the world you get cheaper talent, but you know, and I can understand why they say that because of the difference in economy and whatever, but like in terms of the quality of the candidates. Is there like, how do you see the potential for the Pakistani candidates and Pakistani markets?
So, Rasik, I think that there's a lot of potential, there's a lot of talent in Pakistan, and I'd be the first one to admit that, it often gets, you know, under discovered and undiscovered, right? And I feel that people are now starting to realize that they're starting to realize their worth, right? Working for international startups, because I've been in contact with so many different candidates hiring for so many international startups. People are now starting to realize their worth, but again, there's still a large chunk where when there's an international opportunity, they're ready to undersell themselves, and because it's a remote opportunity,
Yeah.
it's a foreign currency role, and I think. The potential, the talent, there's no doubt that Pakistan is doing great. Yes, for them, for the outsiders, the international companies, they do see it as more rather inexpensive alternate to their respective countries and talent pools. But I think in terms of quality, in terms of talent, Pakistan does not lack one bit. The people here are super hardworking, and I was reading this post the other day that one of the founders had posted that I hire a lot of international folks and I offer them sponsorships, to sort of relocate to different locations because they're better at delivering. They work harder. They want to prove themselves really fast in a very short amount of time. And I think that speaks volumes, right? Coming from a founder, and
Yeah.
I've experienced this within people in Pakistan, how they're ready to work overtime, they're ready to go out of the box and just do what it takes and have that go-getter attitude.
All right. I'm so glad that you have this sort of positive outlook towards it, because I have similar feelings, in this space as well. So, Jodha, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking out the time. I know you must have had a very busy schedule. So, thank you for that. And I'm really hopeful that the people, hopefully hearing and watching this, would take out a couple of insights that will help them in the future, inshallah.
Inshallah, man. And honestly, that's the reason why I wanted to come to this podcast as well. I really admire the initiative that you guys have taken, the Campus to Career, and I feel that it's a bridge that you will be sort of
Yeah,
building for students, the fresh grads coming out, because I experienced it firsthand. I'm sure you did too.
exactly. Yeah.
And if we have those voices out there who are in the industry who can help you guys build that bridge for those fresh grads, then I'm super gassed, super excited. How this turns out, inshallah. And yeah, thank you for having me. This was my very first podcast, and I hope it was all right. But yeah, thank you so much, Rasik. Appreciate you taking time out.
No worries, and thank you so much once again. Hope you have a good time and productive rest of the week ahead. Thank you so much. Take care.
Inshallah. Thank you so much. Take care.